Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, everybody, for being here for us to talk about social innovation, specifically here at the University of Kentucky. This is an exciting time for us as we build this new unit in partnership with the Office of Technology Commercialization under UK Innovate's new division. So one of the things I want to talk about first is how are we defining social innovation? Social innovation at the University of Kentucky is about sustained social impact, specifically innovations for sustained social impact. Not everybody uses the term social innovation the same. Not all institutions approach social innovation the same. So I think it's important for us to baseline how are we defining social innovation, and then what do we plan to do with this? So creating sustained social impact is about growth, being holistic and intentional, and advancing innovation for social impact, social justice, and the common good. So the biggest pieces that I want to focus on is that this is not new, right? This is a growing. We are enhancing what we already do at the University of Kentucky. Social innovation is not new. Our innovators and researchers who are focusing on research solutions that are for community impact, for sustained communities, is not new. What is new is the university's focused, intentional outreach towards these innovators, towards these researchers, and building a true infrastructure of support. So we are going to grow social innovation at the university by commercializing their research, right, in terms of getting that out and effectuating their impact from their research solutions, by diversifying our innovators, making sure that we're truly reaching out and providing resources to all of our researchers on campus, and really and intentionally working with the community for what they need. This is about building a robust and holistic approach. So this is about disrupting systems, right? Sustained social impact is about how are we trying to effectuate change and truly look for research-based solutions that are going to disrupt community systems for the common good. Advancing innovation is the last one. So we're truly looking for research solutions that have high potential for social impact. And this doesn't necessarily mean monetization, right? Commercialization and monetization are not the same thing. And so while this lives within the Office of Technology Commercialization, that's about enhancing impact, scaling impact, not necessarily focused on financial return, right? And that tends to be the biggest sticking point or question that I often receive is, well, I don't want this to make money. It's not about making money. It's about how are we changing people's lives and working together to do that. So I often get asked about my team. And so I wanted to take a minute and just share with you this really impressive, colorful diagram of our team within UK Innovate and the Office of Technology Commercialization. I know on the right, it may look like I am off over here by myself on the right side of your screen, but I promise you I'm not. Like if everybody tilts their head with me to the left so that I'm on the top of your screen, it kind of works more like that, right? So I don't do anything alone. I don't do anything by myself. I have a full team of people behind me who help me. I do have my own commercialization portfolio, but I also work in tandem and in partnership with all of our commercialization managers. So we work together to make sure that we are enhancing your research solutions to the highest extent possible. We have a full contracts team, an intellectual properties department, all full of experts who know and understand the field better than I ever could, right? And so it allows me to focus on the research solution, on the innovation itself, and how do we create community impact while leaning on our experts in contracts and intellectual property to do the legal piece with us. So I'm very thankful for our team. I get a lot of questions, and I'll go ahead and address something that tends to be the elephant in the room, especially around academia. But you're still a unit on your own. So how do you do all this by yourself? Again, I don't. And we do intend to hire. And, you know, I think we had hopes that we would be hiring this summer. This is, again, this department is new for the University of Kentucky. I just started in December as the inaugural leader. So we're just now at barely 6 months of growing this unit. And we've grown fast and furious, and we will keep growing. But as we look to hire staff, I want to be intentional about what need we're filling when we hire somebody. I believe firmly that the person that we bring in needs to understand their value to the team, that we have a clear vision for the role that they are going to serve, and that we can help them meet their personal and professional development goals. So while we may be on a longer timeline to hire than I think people would hope for or than we initially thought, I think it's purposeful to be intentional about that. And I'm very thankful to my leadership team, to Tanya and to Ian, for acknowledging that and recognizing that. Anytime I've alluded to anything, they're very quick to be like, are you ready now? Are you ready now? So it's not that we can't, won't, or don't. We will, but I want us to be intentional about how we continue to grow this team so that we're supporting the university, that we're supporting our researchers, that we're supporting our community in the most intentional way possible. So how does social innovation work with our innovators? How do we do this? We have 3 primary buckets. So faculty research is our lead. So I work with researchers on their research solutions, on their innovations, to effectuate impact, to scale the impact of their research. And again, this isn't new for the university, but we are intentionally reaching out to our researchers who have something for sustained social impact, social justice, or the common good. Community engagement is the next bucket. And this is about how am I helping our faculty reach out to the community, get more involved in different areas that will support and enhance their research. But it's also about bringing the community and community-based solutions to our faculty as well. A lot of times our communities know what they need in order to enhance and advance towards building and creating a sustainable community, but they need the research support to validate and evaluate their ideas. And then the third bucket is an experiential learning. And this is about how are we teaching our students on campus about social innovation, specifically about social justice, social impact, and the common good. This can't be something that stands alone. It has to be embedded in every lens and in every major. So I work with our faculty to get them connected to entrepreneurs, get them connected to other innovators, to provide coursework and curriculum development. Very thankful to the College of Social Work for really jumping in at the very beginning and engaging in this particular piece so that our students are more prepared for economic impact and contributing to sustainable communities. So these are the 3 buckets in which we work, and they all kind of work together and they grow together, but this is how we frame social innovation on campus. I get asked a lot, well, but what is it? And it can really be anything. And this is why I go back to that organizational chart. And I specifically called out my other teammates in commercialization, because we do work together on all of these things. And it's not that innovations are always one or the other, but it's often both and. And it's important that we're working together as a team to truly develop the research in the best way possible. So we have several innovations that I partner with Liz Knapp and Kendra Staggs, Kendra Stencil, to help bring to market and help scale and effectuate that change. I saw Rhett Lindsay, a UK alum, I saw him log on, and he's got an amazing app that would fall in the social innovation bucket called See Me. And this app is about eliminating bias in the hiring process. And so if you're interested in that, he's got a social innovation that he is taking to market. I would encourage you to look at that, falls under that app bucket for social innovation. But again, it can be anything. It's about how are we changing the world and how are we making the world a better place. So how do we do this? How does it work? Right? So our researchers have an idea, they create. And together, we're going to take that idea to market and we're going to disrupt the system. And through that, we're going to innovate for social good. And then we're going to do it again, right? This is an iterative process. And it's about creativity. It's about ingenuity. It's about consistent feedback loops and change. Our communities are constantly growing and changing, and we should be doing the same thing. And our researchers are naturally inclined to do that and follow those patterns. And so my job is to help find solutions that allow their research solutions to be self-sustaining so that they can focus on the research part, on the creativity part, on the disruption part, right? So that we can continue to innovate, but we want them to be able to do that without constantly chasing grant money or doing it in addition to grant money. We want it to support and enhance what they're doing and take a little bit of the pressure off, right? This should be teamwork and we do it together. So what do we need to understand? So with social innovation at the middle, when I meet with researchers, when I meet with community members, we talk about what is the social impact that you're trying to serve. What are your development goals? How do you see this working? What do you want to accomplish? How does this fit within the market? In partnership with our intellectual properties team, they will do a market assessment so we can understand what is out there, what our options are, what the competition is, how can we best effectuate and scale your impact? And then what do you hope comes out of this? What are the outcomes that you want? Do you want to spin out into your own company? Do you want to just license it out and move on to the next thing? What do you want to happen to it? And again, this is about your individual goals. We won't do anything that you don't want to do. This is about creating options that will support you and the way in which your tool, your innovation, your research solution can best be used to make change, to make a difference. So I went through that all very quickly because my hope is that we have lots of conversation about this because it is new for the University of Kentucky and it is a growing movement across the nation. My hope is that we can have conversation to better understand what this means for us and how we can better serve you. So Jackie, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Serenity, for the great presentation. Just a reminder that if you have questions, please put those in chat. You can put them in chat to everyone or directly to me, and we'll ask those. I do have some questions already, Serenity. The first question is, can you talk a little bit about what the first step would be for someone at the University of Kentucky who thinks they have a social innovation?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I think some people would say, fill out a disclosure form and turn it in because that's what we get measured by. But I think the true first step is to just reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Sometimes I think it's hard to know, right? Do I have an idea? Is this a good idea? So many of my conversations with researchers start at, well, you can tell me if you don't like it, or you can tell me if this isn't a good idea. They're all going to be good ideas, right? It's not about whether it's a bad idea. It's about how do we take your idea and have it meet the goals that you want it to serve or the population that you want it to serve. So for me, first step is just reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it is and figure out what all of your options are and how we can move together forward as a team and as a unit to meet your goals and what you want to happen.
Thanks, Serenity. What a lot of our attendees may not know is that you have headed up a SIG and I would like you to talk more about that. That's with our national organization. And can you talk about how it's going to benefit UK innovators as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Autumn is our national organization for technology transfer. And in February, we established a special interest group specifically for social innovation. So this is a proactive group. It's an international group that is specifically focused on social innovation and creating a community of practice. I am currently the chair for this special interest group. And so we really work to create conversation and provide examples of what to do, right? How to create the best licenses for social innovation. Kayla Meisner's on here. She's part of our team from Kentucky Commercialization Ventures. And she provides great examples for looking at milestones differently for licensing. We talk about intellectual property and what that means for social innovation. Oftentimes it's going to be a copyright and not a patent. But even if it is, that looks differently for social innovation than it does for more deep tech research solutions. So how are we working together, not just as a small community of practice, but as a national and international community to figure out the best ways to serve our innovators, and to do that in a way that's going to accelerate change, accelerate a community of growth, and in truly working together to enhance social innovation well, right? There's a lot of spaces that have more established social innovation units on campus, but we all look at it differently. We all manage our portfolios differently. It's all assigned differently. So there's no standardization right now. And I think the hope is that this special interest group will provide enough feedback that we can operate within our own individual spaces without having to figure it out on our own. So I think the biggest impact to UK researchers is that we're leveraging resources across the nation and across the globe to make sure that we're providing the best advice possible, while also using our researchers as examples to be leaders in the field for social innovation. So it goes both ways, right? We're bringing that expertise in to the University of Kentucky from that special interest group, while also pushing out our researchers as leaders in the field for social innovation. And so I think those two are probably the biggest benefits to our researchers here.
Thank you, Serenity. Can you talk about how social innovation at the University of Kentucky compares to that at other universities?
Yeah, so I love this question because one of the most defining moments for me in first taking this job was in doing some benchmarking, was meeting with other universities. And a colleague said to me, you have to evaluate the research lens of your university. And at first I didn't understand. And this person framed it as, we're a liberal arts institution. So that changes the ways in which we understand, look at, and talk about social innovation. A research heavy in a university that's coming from a more engineering or health sciences, pharmaceutical side is going to look at social innovation differently. The ways in which our natural infrastructure, right? The ways in which we as a campus talk about social innovation is different in those two spaces. And so I think the biggest thing to think about is what is the lens of the university? Most of us all still have those three same buckets, right? Faculty research, community engagement, experiential learning. But the ways in which we prioritize those three pillars is going to be different based on the institution. The ways in which those pillars then also build and support each other, kind of like a Jenga tower, are also very different in how they come together. We're also different because our office is different, right? Our Office of Technology Commercialization, as you saw in that organization chart, is not cradle to grave for innovations like many offices are, meaning when the innovation comes in as the commercialization manager, in many spaces, I am also the IP person, I am also the contract person, I am also the commercialization person. Where in our office, we have experts and people who specialize in licensing, people who specialize in intellectual property. And that's different. That means I get to focus truly on what I'm good at, which is effectuating social innovation. And so depending on the office, depending on the university, it changes how we understand and how we operate in that space. And so I think it's really important, not just for us as a university, to be careful about and to be clear about how we talk about social innovation, how we serve our researchers, but also back to the question before about, the National Special Interest Group. It's important for us to frame this in the larger context as well, because as we look nationally to accelerate social innovation, we have to be clear about what our resources are or are not on campus. And it's not that there's a better than, it's just different. And we need to be clear about what our differences are. And we need to capitalize on our strengths, on our assets as institutions and organizations, and then use those assets to accelerate towards social innovation, to accelerate towards sustained social impact, and to really focus on that inclusive innovation and making sure all of our researchers and all of our communities are being served by our research as well.
Thank you. You spoke a little bit about all the different things that social innovation could be. Can you give some examples from the University of Kentucky, just to give people more of a visual of what social innovation is here?
Yep. So we have a lot of things, items, innovations in the pipeline that are related to education in some way. So whether that's a pack of learning cards for health lessons for third graders, that's going to teach them about oral care or healthy eating or whatever it might be, or whether that's adaptive plays that are gender neutral, that can be given to high schools so that it's a ready-made theatrical performance, all wrapped up in one learning tool. Maybe it's a training, right? I highlighted Rhett's app earlier as a UK alum. It could also be training for a specific group or population. We've had websites come through that are for community-based resources, and they are GIS mapped by community so that people, healthcare providers, mental health providers, community-based organizations can better serve their populations by providing them with direct and immediate access to support services that they need for overall health and wellness. All of those are options that are currently sitting in my commercialization portfolio. Yesterday, if you attended Demo Day, there were several social innovations in there as well. Megan Marsack and her Celly Coping Kit. Anybody in the medical field that I talk to, I'm constantly talking about Megan and her work that she's bringing to life. And this is about helping families and helping children who are struggling and who are already in a tough medical situation, and trying to provide them with some kind of ease and support, some kind of coping tool, right? The Celly Coping Kit, some kind of coping tool to help them understand and to deal with the medical trauma that they're going through. Scott Stuckey with Fair Chance Works, right, who has recovery programs and is truly using AI to best support that. I have other researchers who have AI browser extensions for food security and nutrition literacy. The creativity and the innovations are, there's virtual reality that is coming through the pike. There's lotions that are being developed. So there's so many options, so many different ideas. But all of them are about providing a service or closing a gap or helping with a need to make things better. And that's the part that I find most inspiring.
Thanks, Randy. Those are great examples. Can you talk about what you think your biggest challenge is on campus with social innovation?
Time. Time for my innovators is the biggest challenge. I do think it's different for many of our researchers from the SHAPE colleges, right? Social sciences, humanities, arts and sciences, fine arts, population health, people education. Because typically their research innovations came from a grant, or they came from an extra idea, or they came from a conversation where somebody expressed a need. And so what they have focused on, or what the solution that they have come up with, the innovation that they have come up with, is something that they do in their free time because of their commitment to the community, because of their commitment to knowledge transfer, because of their commitment to making the world a better place, right? So helping them find to really have some really great champions and advocates on campus in leadership positions who are open to having the conversation about different ways to serve. Stay tuned. We'll be launching pop-up hours for social innovation in the Center for Innovation for Population Health and the College of Public Health. Very thankful to Dr. Lyons and his team for that opportunity to be closer to the researchers, closer to their faculty, to better serve them on their time, in time that'll work for them. So they're not having to schedule an appointment with me. They can just know I'm going to be there and there to answer any question or have a conversation or do whatever. There's other members of the leadership on campus who are looking at different funding opportunities to support faculty in their college who have ideas but need time or funding to help move their idea from idea to proof of concept, or from proof of concept to a beta tested product. So time is the biggest challenge, but we're slowly working through that to hopefully provide some options that are going to ease that strain. It's not going to address the strain, but I hope it's going to ease the strain.
Great. Serenity, any last words you want to leave with our audience before we close out the webinar?
I think one of the biggest things for us to think about, and this goes back to commercialization and monetization are not the same. I think the biggest thing for us to think about is, how do we normalize impact over financial return on investment? And for me, I think this is my biggest hope and my biggest need for tech transfer, for social innovation within tech transfer, is for us to really be thinking differently, innovatively about how we measure the technologies, the innovations that we're putting out into the world. And I think it's important for us to think about not just primary impacts, but secondary and tertiary impacts. And I do think our Office of Technology Commercialization, we are modeling that and leading that, not only by having a standalone position, a dedicated position for social innovation, but also in our partnership with the rest of the commercialization team, right? So even if something comes out of the College of Engineering as something that's considered more traditional deep tech, in working with our commercialization managers, we're talking about what are the secondary and tertiary impacts of moving this forward, and how do we focus on those as well and make sure that we're enhancing all areas of this innovation that's going to make a difference, that's going to make a change. And so I think as we continue to talk on campus, particularly with our researchers and innovators, it's important that we're grounding our conversations in community impact, right? This is about social justice, social impact, and the common good. This is about making a change. This is about disrupting community systems for the better so that we have sustainable families and sustainable communities. I would be remiss if I didn't end this with hugs and snacks, right? Anybody who's talked to me knows I believe firmly in hugs and snacks, but what I'm talking about and what I'm alluding to in that tagline is compassion and empathy and basic needs. And many of our social innovations are grounded in those directions, right? How do we show empathy and garner compassion and make sure our communities have the basic needs so that they can thrive and not just survive? And that's what social innovation is about. So as we move forward as a campus, I hope we're focused on community impact, on sustained social impact, and that we're doing that together and making that the important part of our conversations.
Very well said, Serenity. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Please watch for future webinars. We'll have a new one in July. And we will be, again, we've recorded this, so we will be posting on the UK Innovate YouTube page. And we will also be sending it out in email. And we wish everyone a great day. Thank you.